Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I hope you and your family are well and safe. Today is Tuesday, April 6th of 2021, and it's 9 a.m. here in Sydney, Australia. Today, I will take you through on a product which we have built in-house by the Octane team, and it's called Datafusion. Datafusion is a connector which will help you to connect your IBM Planning Analytics TM1 with other BI tools. A brief introduction about myself. My name is Samir and I work for Octane Software Solution as a managing consultant. I have been working for Octane since 2016, and with IBM Planning Analytics, I've been working since 2007, which is almost 14 years now. I'm a certified TM1 developer. Apart from managing large TM1 projects, I've also worked on migration of TM1 projects from on-premises to the cloud. My email is mentioned at the last line of the slide. Please feel free to shoot me an email in regards to today's session or anything related to IBM Planning Analytics, or even any suggestions or topics you would like me to cover in the next meetup session. Before I jump into the main agenda for today's session, I just want to run through a couple of slides about Octane. So Octane is a IBM Gold partner in multiple countries. We have 6 offices across the globe, out of which 2 are in Australia and 4 in India. We have more than 40 plus certified TM1 consultants, and together we have successfully delivered more than 100 plus TM1 projects. Octane, what we do, we basically do 4 main things: consulting, development, support, and training. And we also have our 24/7, 365-day support center in India, where we provide support to all our global clients across the globe. So before we start the agenda, I have got couple of poll questions. So you will see 2 questions popping up. So I would like you to please answer those 2 questions, which will help me to run through this session. Thanks for your answers. I can see 78% have said yes. Thanks for that. I've also got one more question. Please, can you select your options for that? So I think the next question will be on which BI reporting tool is being used in your organization. So you've got 4 options. Please select one or multiple, please. And I can see you have selected 68% for Power BI. So thanks for that. I think that will help me to formalize my presentations for today. So with that, I think we'll jump into the agenda I have. So I'll start with the background of what Datafusion is and why we have built this Datafusion. What are the challenges faced in organizations who are not using a tool like Datafusion? And then straight after that, we'll look into the demo. And straight after the demo, I will maybe summarize all the benefits and the approach for Datafusion. And then finally, the last slide, I've got something to disclose, which is a special offer from Octane. So brief background about Datafusion. So as I've mentioned, I think we at Octane, we have been in business for the last 5 years. And we have gone to many different client sites who have got TM1, and they also have other BI tools like Power BI, Qlik, and Tableau as well. And one of the most common challenges which we have seen is the way people export data. Sorry, I think I might not be sharing my screen. Let me share my screen again. Just one sec. Yep, I hope everyone can see my screen now. Right. Sorry, I was just going through the agenda for today's session. Basically, I'll start with the background, the challenges faced by companies who are using both TM1 and other BI tools, and then we will have a demo session. And then after the demo, I'll just summarize all the things what we have gone through. And then finally, in the last slide, I'll talk about the special offer from Octane. So in terms of the background, as I was talking about, we at Octane have been in business for more than 5 years, and we have implemented TM1 in many large companies. And one of the most common challenges we have seen in many companies is they have TM1 and they also have Power BI and Qlik and Tableau as well. And we have seen many different ways these companies, they try to export data sitting in TM1 into Power BI. And that is probably one of the reasons why we have built Datafusion. Now, if you see the challenges or the problems which these companies have faced, you can see the number one is resource intensive. I think you need to have a TM1 developer to start with to build a TM1 process by which the data which is sitting in TM1 can be exported into a CSV file. And also, as you can see from the point number 2, there is over dependence on IT, which means IT needs to have a shared folder for these TM1 developers to have them access to produce CSV file. And then it's a manual in nature as well. You need to produce these files and keep it somewhere in a shared folder, and from there a Power BI developer will pick it up and load into the Power BI reports. And there could be multiple times this process has to be executed if the data doesn't reconcile with TM1. So if the Power BI reports doesn't show you the numbers what TM1 has, maybe because of the timing issue or because of some export of TM1 data didn't come through properly. So there could be many reasons why the data doesn't reconcile. So if it doesn't reconcile, then it needs to be repeated all the steps what I've just mentioned. A TM1 developer needs to export into a shared folder. A Power BI developer needs to pick up the file and then load into the Power BI. And then there's security issue as well, whether people are seeing the right data in the Power BI. So all those things, when we were looking at, I think that's when we realized that there is a gap which we need to fill it up. So that's where we at Octane build this product called Datafusion. And as you can see from this slide, Datafusion sits in between IBM Planning Analytics and your other BI tools. And we have used REST API when we build this Datafusion, which means it is much more faster, quicker to get your TM1 data from TM1 into Power BI. So with that, I think let's jump into the demo, and probably I'll showcase what Datafusion is and how easy it is used in your organization. So for this, I have a Power BI dashboard. As you can see, this Power BI dashboard has got some filters on the top, like say Americas, Europe, and I've got some multiple products on the top. I've also got 3 key KPIs. I've got the gross margin, sales, and the cost, and I've got some pie chart and some line chart at the bottom. I've also got a TM1 instance on my laptop, which is an SData. What I'll do is I'll go to a cube called Sales Cube. And within the Sales Cube, I'll open a view called Actual versus Budget. I think it's not responding for some reason. Right, sorry. Yep, sorry, I think it took some time for some reason. Right. So I've got this cube called sales cube, and within the sales cube, I'm gonna plug in some numbers. So for actuals, I'm gonna give say 1 million, and for budget, I'll give 1 million. So I've got 1 million sitting in both actual and budget each. Now let me go back to the Power BI dashboard, and I will right click on this sales data, and I'll click on this refresh button. So when I click on this refresh button, you will notice that at this point, the Power BI will be connecting to TM1, and it will go to the sales cube. It will go inside this actual versus budget view, and it will pull all the records from this view. And you can see it has got about 16,730 records, and the sales number has changed from 34.8 to 35.7. So that's the million which I have plugged in for the sales numbers. So as you can see, I think it was just a matter of one click, and we have TM1 data. And we have TM1 data being pushed to Power BI within a matter of a few seconds here. So that's the first part of the demo. The second part of the demo is what about the dimensions or the consolidations or the hierarchies. So let's see a demo on that side. For this, I will go back to the same sales cube. So within that sales cube, you will notice that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 dimensions. So I'm going to right click on this region dimension. And this region dimension has got 2 regions, Europe, and it has got Americas. And that 2 regions are being displayed on our Power BI dashboard. Now let me add one more region, and this time I'm going to add a region called Asia. And within the Asia, I'll add one country, say China. Right. So now I've got 3 regions, which I've just added Asia. So let me save this dimension. Click OK. Minimize this. Right. Now I've got one more table called region, and I'm going to right click on that region table and click on refresh data. So when I click on this refresh data, you will notice that 22 records have been pulled from TM1, and now we have the Asia as one of the filters. So it was just a matter of, again, a few clicks, and you have your consolidations or your elements from TM1 brought into Datafusion instantly. So with this, we can see that not only Datafusion can bring your TM1 data, but it can also bring your dimensions, elements, or consolidations or hierarchies from your TM1 instance into Power BI within a few clicks. Now, the next part of the demo session, I would just want to go through how this whole thing works. So what goes behind the scene? Right. So with Datafusion, it comes with a few files. We have a config file, we have a exe file, and we have got some license file. That's all. So those are the 4 files which is needed for Datafusion to run. So let me double click on this Datafusion, this exe file. And as soon as I click, you would have noticed that a form has opened up. So this is the form which needs to be filled by the TM1 developer or the administrator or even a user as well. So let me run through this form, and we'll see what happens at the end of filling up this form. So the first thing this form, it asks you is the server name or the IP address of your TM1 server. It could be your dev or it could be your prod server. So because I'm using my laptop, I'm going to give my laptop name. The next one we have is the HTTP port number. Now this is the port number which should be there in your config file. For the Datafusion to work, we should have HTTP port number parameter in your config file. Now for the instance which I'm using, which is sdata, so for this instance, the HTTP port number I have got is 8010. And the next two things is the credentials, basically your username and password, which you're using for the TM1 instance. And as we go down, the next one we have is the select mode. So within this select mode, we have three options. The base mode, basically this is your integrated security mode 1 in your config file. We also have got CAM, which is your integrated security mode 5. And if your TM1 is on the cloud, we have that option as well. So for this demo, I will use the first one, which is the base mode. So base mode is basically your integrated security mode equals 1 in your config file. Right. As we go down, we can see the next option we have is the select method. Now with this select method, we have three options. The first one is your public view. The second option we have is a private view. And the third option is for your dimensions, basically. So again, for the purpose of this demo, I will select this first option, which is public view. Now, as we select, you can see now the Datafusion is now talking to TM1, and it will try to bring all the cubes. So we have about 10 cubes in our S data. So those 10 cubes will now be displayed in this select cube drop down. So those are about 10 cubes we have in the S data, which is basically the same as what we are seeing in the S data instance. For this demo, I will pick up a cube called sales cube. Now, when I click on the sales cube, you will notice again Datafusion will talk to TM1 instance. So let me select that. And you can see it is now talking to TM1, and it will bring all the public views. So from the sales cube, we have about 15 public views. I can see there are a few private views as well. So those private views will be ignored because we have selected the public view. So for instance, I think I've got a private view called ZZSS1. So we should not see this one because that's a private view. I think the rest is all public views. So if I go down, yep. So you can see all the public views has been listed in this drop down, in the next drop down called select view. So this is basically the same list which we are seeing in this views list. So if this Datafusion is being used by a user who has got a private view, then he will be selecting this so that he can get his private views. Right, so I'll leave that select view as actual versus budget. That's my first view. So the next option I have in this Datafusion form is the suppress zero. So if you have this view called actual versus budget with no suppression switched on, then we can switch on the suppress zero using this form. So that's the option we have. In case if you don't have a suppress zero in any of these views, we want to force that suppress zero to be available using this form. But if you don't want to have that, then you can leave that view as is. So you can select the second option. So keep the view as we have saved the view, whether the suppress zero is switched on or switched off, we will leave that as it is. So for this demo, I'm going to use the suppress zero switched on. So I'll leave with that option. We're going further down. As we can see from this sales cube, we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 dimensions. So each of these dimensions has got multiple attributes. So if you want to bring those attributes for each of those dimensions, say for example, I've got a month as one of the dimensions. So if I go to the month, I can see the month has got all these are different attributes. It could be an alias, or it could be string or text attributes. So all those attributes, if I want to bring in, I can select from this drop down. So this is an optional field. If you don't want to bring, then we can leave this field blank. So in your case, I think if you have a cube which has got, say, 10 dimensions, and then you will see this section called select attributes will display all those 10 dimensions. And for each of those dimensions, it will list all the attributes which you have in your TM1 instance. So again, as I mentioned, this is an optional field. I am going to leave that field blank for all the 5 dimensions. Okay, going further down, we have another few options to select. So the next option I have in this form is a select the visualization tool. Now, there is a reason why we have kept the Tableau as one of the options. The reason for that is the REST API works slightly different for this specific tool. But in terms of whether you select Power BI or Qlik, whether you select this option or you go with your Tableau, the form what we have, the fields what we have in this form remains the same. So there is no change to that. It's just that mechanism of how Datafusion works is slightly different for Tableau, and that's the reason why we have kept Tableau as a separate drop-down option. So for this demo, I will select the Power BI and the Qlik as the visualization tool I want to use. Okay, the final step in this is to click on this get link. Now, when we click on this get link, at this point, Datafusion will go through this form, what the user has filled, including the server, the username, password, all the different options he has selected, and that will be encrypted in a HTTP link. So it should come up in the next few seconds. So as you can see, so now we have got a link which is encrypted. And this link has got all the details what the user has filled up in this form, including the cube, the view which he wants to get the data from, the suppress zero, the attributes, the mode, the credentials. Everything is now encrypted in this link. Now with this link, you have two options. Either you can select this link and right click and say copy, or you can even use this option called copy link within this Datafusion form. Okay, once we have got the link from this Datafusion form, we can now go back to Power BI. And within this Power BI, we have an option called Get Data. And within that Get Data, we have an option called Web. Right. So in this web option in the Power BI, we have this URL field. So I can right click and paste that link, which I have got it from Power BI. Right, so that's the link. And when I click on OK, I'm gonna get one table. For example, the sales data, because that's where the actual versus budget view we want to get in. So to get each of these dimensions, we have to get a link for this, which is basically using this form again and selecting instead of selecting the view, I have to select the dimension. So by which I will get one link for one dimension. So in this Power BI dashboard, I've got a link for account, model, month, region, and measure. These 5 are dimensions, and this one is my public view. So I've got 6 links for this dashboard. Now each of this link will have a table. For example, if I select sales data, so you can see here the data from TM1. When I did the right click and say refresh, it connected using the Datafusion. It was able to connect to TM1 and it pulled the data and it stores within this Power BI. So these are the 16,000 records which I just pulled out from TM1. So this is one table. which by using one of the links. And if I select say month, so that's another link, a Datafusion link, and by which I was able to pull all the data, all the dimension related information from TM1, and it's stored in this table. Another example is the region. So the region has got all the different regions, for example, the Europe, the Americas, and you can also see the one which we just recently added, the Asia. So even that got loaded into this table. So if another region or another element gets added, when we right click and say refresh, Datafusion will connect to TM1 and it will bring the data, all the elements, and it will store in this table. Now, once we have these 6 tables, we have to set up this relationship as well, which is basically this. So here you can see I've got the sales table, which is a public view, and I've got these 6 dimensions, which I'm linking using this relationship diagram. So once we have got 6 links using this Datafusion form, and once we manage to get this link set up, that's it. From there onwards, a user can start building his Power BI dashboard, and then whenever they want, they can right click and refresh to bring the data from TM1 into Power BI. Now this can also be automated as well. We don't have to right click and say refresh data. So using Power BI options, I can even schedule this refreshes to happen at say 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, by which you can bring the data from TM1 on a nightly basis. And then when the user starts, say at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, they already have the TM1 data in their Power BI dashboards. So that's an option. So either ad hoc, or we can even schedule this data refresh to happen at a specific time. Right. So just want to summarize what we just discussed and what we have seen so far. So with the Datafusion, the benefits you can see is it's real-time access to TM1. So either you can do a ad hoc refresh, or you can even schedule. So you're gonna get your data instantly available to your Power BI dashboard users. Now there is no dependency on export import. So that was one of the pain points which we discussed in the initial phase, where there is a dependency of a TM1 developer, and there is a dependency of an IT resource where there are multiple resources needs to be involved for a TM1 data to come from TM1 cubes or dimensions into Power BI. So that gets eliminated straight away, as there is no dependency using Datafusion. The third point, as I mentioned, it not only brings your cube data, but also your dimension elements as well, whether it's a simple element or a consolidation element, or it could be your hierarchies as well. So all those things can be brought from TM1 into Power BI, again, matter of few clicks. It's a self-service utility. Every user in your organization, let's say you have about 500,000 or 1,000 plus users who are using TM1, who wants to bring the data from their private views. Let's say they have their own private views into Power BI. Again, it's a self-service. There is no dependency, or they don't have to involve a TM1 developer or a IT resource to get the data from TM1 to Power BI. No scripting required. I think there is, as you can see from this demo, which I've gone through, there is not a single step or a single line of code a user has to write. It's just a matter of filling up that form, get the link, and get that link in your Power BI, and off you go. It's that simple it is. Easy of connect with TM1. Again, there is no other tool required for Datafusion to work. It works very easily, simple to set up, and simple to use as well. And the final point here is, I think it can be used across multiple BI tools. It could be your Power BI, or it could be Tableau or Qlik. It works on all these different Power BI tools without any issue. So I'll go through one more slide, and before I take the question. So the last slide I have is it's a special offer from Octane. So what we want to propose here is there is a 60 days free trial we would like to offer. So with that 60 days free trial, as you can see from the point number one, our team will install and configure Datafusion for your environment. So that's point number one. So if you opt for a free trial, our team will help you to set up and have this Datafusion run on your dev or production environment. We will be providing you full support during that 60 days. It could be any time zone. You could be in US, or you could be in Europe, or you could be in Japan or Australia, anywhere. We have a 24/7, 365 days support from our Indian office, who will be providing you full support during this 60 days trial. Now, when we say this trial, we are not taking away any features. So this is a full version of Datafusion, which we are giving it for 60 days free trial. And you can see whether it fits in your business. Does it solve the purpose, which is basically bringing the data from TM1 to Power BI if you're using Power BI in your organization? And then you can make a decision after 60 days whether you want to proceed further or you want to just uninstall Datafusion. As I mentioned, I think there is no obligation for you to purchase Datafusion at the end of the trial. So after 60 days, it's up to you to make the decision whether you want to continue using Datafusion or you want to stop using or maybe uninstall. So maybe, yes, we will be in touch with you at the end of 60 days to evaluate whether is it something which is useful for your organization. So to get this free trial, at the end of this session, we'll be sending you a thank you email will come out in your inbox, and there will be an option for you to tick the box. So if you tick and say submit, we'll be notified, and straight after that, we'll be in touch with you and your team, and we will make sure that we will install and configure Datafusion in your environment. And of course, we'll set up in such a way that you will have 60 days. There will be license files, which will take control of that. And then after 60 days, as I mentioned, you can evaluate and come back to us whether you want to continue using Datafusion. So that's the special offer we have got right now. So please make sure to fully utilize this. Right. So I'll take some few questions if you have.
All right. Thank you, Samir. It's Amanda here. We've got a number of questions, so I'll ask you the questions, and if you can answer, or refer back. First one is there any limitations in the number of data you can bring in to using Datafusion?
No, Datafusion itself doesn't have any limitation. I think if you have 1 million records or 5 million records in this cube view, it will bring through into Datafusion. So it's up to the Power BI. If, for example, the next version of Power BI has some limitations, then of course you will have limitations. But Datafusion itself doesn't have any limitations in terms of bringing the number of records. So if you've got 1 million, 10 million, 15 million, yes, we can bring all the records into Power BI.
All right, cool. Is there any third-party software required to run Datafusion?
No, we don't need any third party. As I mentioned, all Datafusion will have is a config file, a exe file, and a couple of license files. I mean, of course, there is a log file as well. So those are pretty much the 5 files which we'll be installing in your organization. And that's pretty much, I think you don't need, so this to run this exe file, you don't need any third party tool. So everything has been packaged within this exe file, and it will work without any third party tool.
All right. How long do you need to bring in, say, 100,000 records?
What we have seen, I think that's a question. Probably depends on if you have got rules, your feeders. There are a lot of things which is involved. So to bring in 100,000 records, I mean, I would say probably less than a minute. So less than a minute, you should be able to bring 100,000 records from your TM1 cube into Power BI.
All right, cool. Can you bring in multiple attributes for a single dimension?
At this stage, we can only bring in one, but that's something we are working towards. I think I didn't mention that. So we have a dedicated team in India which is working on this product. So So we have a list of new features which all our existing clients have asked for. So we work on those features. So if there is something, a feature which you want to add, I think we will definitely look into it and we will try to add that feature. So as I mentioned, at this point, yes, you can only bring one attribute at a time.
Can you write from Power BI into TM1?
At this point, yeah, sorry. At this point, the version we currently have, we don't have that feature. But saying that, I think at some point in future we might have that feature. But with the current version, no.
All right. How many licenses do you need for Datafusion? How many TM1 licenses, I presume?
There is no limit. I think if you have a TM1 instance which you have only 5 licenses, it will work. If you have 1,000, it will work. So there is no limit on how many licenses you should have.
I'm presuming the question is probably me trying to ask, do you need a TM1 license for Datafusion?
Right. Yes, of course. Yes, you need tier 1 license. Probably one thing I didn't highlight is when we were using this form, let's say this is one of the user who wants to use this form, who has got access only to, say, Europe. He doesn't have access to. So when he uses this sales cube and he uses this actual versus budget as a public view, even though we can see from the public view, we have the region Europe, like Belgium, for example, it's part of the, sorry, he has got Europe access, but he doesn't have access to Asia. So Datafusion will respect the security of TM1. If this user doesn't have access to Asia, he will not be able to see that data in Power BI. So that's, yeah, sorry.
No, all good. Thanks. So it respects the security of TM1.
Yep.
The next question is, if you have Power BI premium subscription, what credentials do you need to use in data source settings? I think what the question is, do you need admin on the Power BI side to do the to fetch data?
No, I don't think so. We don't need a Power BI administrator or an admin license, because as I mentioned, right, I think once you fill up this form, so this form can be used by both the TM1 developer or it could be used by a TM1 user as well, whether it's a read user or a write user. And once we get this link, so this link is not limited to one TM1 developer. So this link will come out for even a normal user as well. And once a user gets this link, again, it depends on the Power BI. So if the organization has got a lot of restriction that they have switched off certain features of Power BI, for example, if they have switched off this get data, then of course this user will not be able to get the data from TM1 into Power BI. So, but if this user has got access to this web feature, yes, he will be able to bring data from TM1 to Power BI.
All right, cool. What are the supported versions of TM1 for Datafusion?
We have tested and it works on all the versions from 10.2.2 and all the way till Planning Analytics 2.0.9, the latest version. So all the versions from TM1 10.2 all the way the current version of TM1, it works.
All right. Where's the Datafusion installed? Is it on the TM1 server?
It depends on how you want to set up, but it will work on both. So if you want to have this Datafusion set up on your TM1 dev or production server, you can do that. Or if you want to have this on Power BI server, it will work. Or if you want to have these files on a user C drive or D drive, it will work. And it's very lightweight. As you can see, it's only about 60 MB, all the files together. So it's very lightweight and it doesn't require too many resources like RAM, your hard disk, or your CPU cores. So even having a 4 GB RAM is sufficient. So you don't need to have a separate server for Datafusion. So Datafusion can sit on TM1 server or can sit on Cognos BI server, for example, Power BI, or even a user laptop or desktop as well.
All right. The next question is there any issues bringing in data from a source in addition to TM1? So I'm guessing within the Power BI environment, is there any issues if you bring in data from other places as well?
We have not seen in any client side. yes, we have seen a lot of our clients who bring data from TM1, and they also bring data from other systems as well, like whether it's a SQL or Oracle, and they mix it up as well. So we have seen dashboards built by our clients, which is coming from, I don't know, I'll just give an examples. The sales is coming from TM1 and the cost is coming from a different source system. And they're able to build a dashboard which is coming from multiple sources. Yes, it works as well.
All right. How is it licensed? Per user, per server?
We have multiple options. I think we have per user license as well for organizations which has got, say, for example, only 3 users, or someone who wants to use only one user, only the administrator. They don't want to deploy for all the users. So we have a license package for that kind of a organization where they want to go specific to 1 or 2 users, or if they want to go enterprise and they have, say, 1,000 or 2,000 users or 500 users. So we can go with that option as well, where we'll give you Datafusion for unlimited users, no matter how many users you want to bring in. It depends on the instance, or not the instances, the server. So for production server, there is a cost, and for each non-dev box, you will have a cost. But you can have as many instances as you want within that box. That's no issue at all. But it works on the unlimited users, server-based, and we also have user-based licenses as well.
All right. Do you have to create links every time for the same dashboard?
As I mentioned, I think you have to create links at the initial phase, which is to bring your cube data and your dimensions. So once the links are set up, then that's it. You don't have to recreate the links to refresh the data. So it's a one-off activity. So once it's set up, it works from there onwards. You don't need to recreate the links.
All right. We use specs interface for TM1. Do we need a web version of TM1 to use this tool?
No, we don't need. So whether it's a perspectives, because I believe the question here is the user must have seen that I'm using perspectives architect, but it will, if you have packs, yes, it will work on packs as well.
All right. Number of questions on the costing. So the costing is there is a fixed price costing on this, but we probably I'll get back on the costing, because there are multiple ways to cost it out based on your scenario, whether it's user based or server based. So for the costing questions, we will come back and send you costing in the email or during the trial period if you wish to take the trial period.
I think if you want, please feel free to email me as well. I think my email is here. So if you want to talk about Datafusion a bit more in detail or about the costing, I think we can take it offline.
All right, I think that's all the questions that we have.
Sure.
Thank you, Samir. That was awesome. And thanks to all the people who attended. Don't forget to let us know if you are interested to try it out. There's genuinely no obligation from our end. So this would allow you to have a look whether this product is suitable for your environment. Does it really solve some of your problems? And we have costed it out in a way that it is quite attractive for any size environment to use this. So we can talk about that offline. Thank you all. We'll close this session. Any final words, Samir?
Yeah, I think I was just saying that we have clients all over the world, not just Australia. We are based in Australia, but we have our clients sitting all over the world. And as I mentioned, we have a support center in India, which does the support 365 days, 24/7. So that's something to keep in mind. And another thing I just want to highlight is we have this webinars happening once a month. So we have the next one coming up on April 13th, which was very interesting. That will be focused on the roadmap of TM1. So you can see we'll be talking about the upcoming features of TM1 or the planning analytics. So it's a good one. So I hope to see you on April 13th, where we'll be talking about the roadmap of IBM Planning Analytics.
All right. Yeah, that would be a good one. Thank you, Samir. Thank you, everyone. We'll close this and talk to everyone a bit later. Bye.
Bye-bye.